Maria Trivelpiece in the Patriot League studio, joined by former Loyola Women's Lacrosse All-American Janine Tucker. Janine, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Maria. Thank you for having me.
We're very excited that you're here because we're celebrating 50 years of Title IX, and for 29 of those years, you were the head women's lacrosse coach at Johns Hopkins. So what impact has Title IX had on you?
Oh my goodness, where do I start? So I have watched over 29 years just at Hopkins how the progression for our women has been exponential as far as facilities and their level of support, our budget, equipment, things like that. But it started back in the day when I first started playing sports, and I was the lucky one because I benefited from so many women that came before me. So I felt like when I was playing, when I was younger, that I had lots of opportunity. But now seeing what my women have at Hopkins, it's just blown my mind how we are going on such a good trajectory, but there certainly is still more work to be done.
What is that work that needs to be done still to this day?
Well, I think that, you kind of saw some of it with the basketball championships over the last few months, kind of a comparison between what the men's players were receiving and what the women's players were receiving, and not just in, little things that they get for making the NCAA basketball tournament, but the facilities, the things that were provided for them. And I feel that those are the things where we need to get a little more equitable. And so we have to keep working along those lines. When you're talking about, gender equity as far as salaries go, women's coaches versus men's coaches, there's a tremendous amount of talent out there, and we're all very much doing the same job. So I feel like those are some of the areas that we still have work to do. We still have kind of a couple more mountains to climb, but they're not maybe as high as they've been in the past.
You mentioned some of those women who came before you that provided you with opportunities. Diane Akins was your head coach at Loyola and is a pioneer in the sport of women's lacrosse. She's one of those women that provided you with opportunities. What did she do for you as an individual and for women's athletics as a whole?
Oh, man. Diane changed my life. Let's just put it right there. She was a woman that every person that she met, everyone that she had interactions with, she left a permanent space on your soul. And so she was really the reason that I took the leap of faith to be the head women's lacrosse coach at Johns Hopkins University. Diane convinced me that I could do it. I was fortunate enough to work with her for a couple of years after I graduated as her assistant, and just tried to suck everything I could out of her because she was such a role model, an icon. She was a legend back then. And so that helped provide confidence for me to then take that next step in my life, which was to take a full-time job at Hopkins. When I first started, I was both the field hockey and women's lacrosse coach. We were Division III at the time. And then a few years after that was when I was able to transition the team into Division I. And Diane was there cheering me on and supporting me every step of the way until she passed. So she is one of those women that so many of us have stood on her shoulders. So she was the loudest in the room when there were inequities, when it came to our sport, when it came to academics at Loyola or in any other area, when it came to kind of things that she needed to champion for her women, for her players, for their families. And so Diane was somebody that had an immeasurable impact, as you mentioned, and someone that we are still talking about to this day with what she was able to do for the sport, for changing the rules, for making things more fair, for bringing everyone up. Back in the day, there were men that started coaching in the women's game, and Diane would embrace them and bring them into the fold and talk to them about how they can help be a positive impact on our sport. So she was just about uplifting everyone and making sure that everyone was treated fairly, with respect, and celebrated for what they brought to the table.
You call Diane your role model, so how important is it for young girls to have women to look up to as role models?
It's vital. It's absolutely vital because number one, you have that role model in your life that is paving the way. Number two, that role model in your life is championing what you're trying to do. They're encouraging you, they're supporting you, even if you don't know this person. If you watch them and you're so enthralled with how they interact, how they deal with people, how they behave, you're going to start to model some of that. So having a role model in our lives as women is absolutely critical. And it's something that Diane made me promise I was going to do for others before she passed away, because she knew how important she was in my life and how important women were in her life. So that was something that was really important to share.
How did you keep your promise to Diane to uplift the women that came behind you?
Couple things, because I knew she would lightning bolt me from heaven if I did not follow through on some of these promises. So she and I had been writing a coaching book before she passed. It was called The Baffled Parent's Guide to Coaching Girls Lacrosse. And so that was one vehicle that she knew we could be a role model or a support system for anyone interested in coaching. So I finished that book and went on to write 5 others in her name and as using her as my inspiration. And that was something that was a promise. Another promise was to make sure that I would be a good listener. Diane was great at listening to her girls, her fellow coaches, her peers. She wanted to know more about people so she could then figure out how to best support them and help them. And so that was something that I've tried really hard to do, with Diane as my kind of beacon, is really be present and hear the people in my life and be a part of what's going to help them be successful, even if it's the hard conversation. That was something that Diane was really good at, was recognizing when, you had to give a hard truth to help somebody have their eyes opened or make them think things through a little bit differently. So that's something that I've tried to do.
What would your advice be to, you talk about listening and giving all of these helpful tips. What would your advice be to a little girl who's maybe told she can't do something? How does she overcome that?
Oh, I will tell you. This is something that we talk a lot about over 29 years at Hopkins. So whenever you're being told I can't, or quite frankly, if anyone that I'm in earshot of, I hear the words I can't do this come out of their face, we will quickly have the conversation that says, we don't say I can't in this family. We say I'm having a little trouble right now, but I will get this. And then I go on to talk to them about the reason they will get whatever it is that they're struggling with is because they're going to practice. They're going to devote time to it. They're going to give themselves a chance and they're going to give themselves some time. So that word kind of yet, I'm struggling right now. I'm not able to do this yet, but I know I will get there. That's something that is a massive conversation that I have. I just did it last night, coaching a little clinic with my sister through her Coppermine Lacrosse Club. And we had a couple girls learning new stick tricks. And they said, oh, I can't do this. And we said, oh, come here, everybody in. Let's have a conversation. And we talked about how we never say I can't as a young woman. I'm having a little trouble right now. I may need to ask for a little bit of help. This may take me a little bit more time, but I will get it. I will be able to do this.
I absolutely love that. Not able to yet. Well, Janine, that's all the questions that I have for you today. This has been incredible. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you so very much.